put yourself always on the left side. Hopefully it's positive for you, and then put a few competition so you look nice. Okay, so this was a little bit about the competition, and if you notice, I was focusing mostly about the customer. So now, this is kind of another type of presentation that I do. So in Japan, a lot of times the Japanese want to do business in America. The US is always this market that everybody wants to do business. But the culture, and I'll even joke about Israelis. When I was much younger, and I used to travel to the States, and I would come back and people would say, so how were the meetings? I said, very interesting. They said it was interesting. Interesting in the US is a polite way of saying no. Just FYI. So let's see some advice I'm giving you about dealing with potential customers. So again, going back to my intelligence days, please learn and know your target before you reach out. You cannot send an email if you don't know, if you haven't got a clue about your prospect. Subscribe to their blogs and look at their marketing campaigns. A lot of times these days you've got blogs. Just read them. There's so much data you can gain today before you go to a meeting. I use a lot the LinkedIn. I'll give you an example. The last company I worked for was acquired. We had a contest between two potential buyers. So each time we had a meeting, I used to go to the LinkedIn, read who do we meet. One day I noticed that one of the top executives coming from one of the potential acquirers was a pilot in the US Air Force. I had in my office a blade of a Russian-made bomber that I collected during my service, and I put this thing between him and me. And I sat across the table from him, and I knew that he was a pilot because I read it on LinkedIn. This was the icebreaker between him and me. So we talked a little bit about planes, flights, and all this stuff, and then the conversation was much smoother. So read on LinkedIn, who do you meet? Maybe you work together in similar companies. You'll be amazed how much data. At the end of the day, it's an analog connection that you need. Come with a value proposition. This is something that if you come to a meeting and you don't have a value proposition, the odds of you being successful are extremely slim. Why should I, as a prospect, take my time to meet you? Because maybe if I use your services, maybe my revenues will increase, maybe I reduce my costs, maybe my customer will have a better user interface. Work on a value proposition. And look for a champion within the company you're targeting. Remember, you come for a meeting, then you leave. But for instance, if you sell to engineers, if developers in the other company, your prospect, need your devices or equipment, get some R&D engineers to become your champions. So they go to the CFO later and say, we need this product. So they're your ambassadors in the group. So begin to think more like 360. How do you communicate with prospects? Never send a cold email. Try to send personalized emails. And how do you make it personalized? Each one of us has his or her way. I used to approach many times people after listening to them in a conference like this. Or I found someone who could do the introduction. Remember, you're approaching someone who doesn't know you. Show them respect, show that you know who they are. So personalized emails. Address difficult questions up front. Here is an example. My company was trying to sell to Facebook. At that time, Facebook was still a good company, not evil. And we were competing against another strong company. They had a feature that Facebook needed and were using. We did not have this feature. In the first meeting, we told them, look, we don't have this feature, but the other features we have are better than the other company, and our development team is already working and we plan to launch this feature in 2-3 months. So we revealed, we came out with information, we came out as honest and professional. Don't hide things because things tend to surface, etc. And prepare customer success stories and create case studies. Make your marketing group work hard. If you sell in Guatemala or some other country here to a bank, and you want to sell something, let's say to Bank of America, show them that you know what it means to work with a bank. Case studies, case studies, case studies, all the time. Sell solution, not features, not products. If I look at my iPhone, I can say this is a cell phone. But it's not a cell phone. It's a communication platform. I can manage the company on this thing. It helps me get updated data at any given moment. It's a platform. It's not just a product. Focus on return on investment. So in many cases, you have something that you try to sell and it's expensive, $1,000. And the prospect looks at you and says, but this is expensive. So you tell them, yes, this is $1,000, but within 6 to 9 months, it will pay itself. So these are features or words that I encourage you to use. Return on investment, a solution, etc., platforms, etc. And you should always know when you deal with them who their competitor is. So if I sell to Cisco and I know about Juniper, so you can tell them, I know you're Cisco, you compete with Juniper. Juniper is moving this way, you better use our stuff because it will give you an edge once again. And last thing, follow up in a timely manner. If you don't follow up fast, the train leaves the station, they have so much things, your prospects to do, so you better stay on top of things. Other considerations, we're very close to the US, and I'm not saying the US is the only place, but try to fly, meet people, potential customers, attend trade shows, conferences. This is where you see your competition. This is where you see your customers, prospects. This is where you may see new hires you may hire in the future. Use confident body language. Use stand, shoulders up, use your hands to change your voice, and confident body language. Use introductions as much as possible because people trust people they know. So if I need to be introduced, let's say, in Guatemala to the biggest carrier here, I would look amongst people I know here for people that can help in introductions. It gives me more credibility. It's very difficult to approach someone directly. If you're building a team in the US, consider what you want to do. The US, usually, you need a pre-sale person who will help you push the products forward. You need a tech support. You need a US address, telephone. They want to see a face. I'm running now because usually I give this in an hour and a half, and they gave me 35 minutes. So this is another slide from the business, 40 years. I just look young, but I've been in business many years. And I try to, hopefully you can see it in the back. This is something I want you really to remember. So, for the entrepreneurs here, please be ethical and set your company's values from day one. This is your DNA. This is why you'll be able, hopefully, to hire great talent. You want the company to be ethical. You don't want it to be vicious as Uber was a few years ago, and the way they treated women, all kinds of things. Very important. Run fast, because at any given time, there are at least 10 more companies around the world, also in China and India, and they run faster than you. They have many more people to choose from. If you don't run fast, you'll be behind. Think global from day one. I come from Israel, 9 million people, tiny country. I think we think from day -1. How do we expand globally? Be customer driven. Don't tell the customer what they need. Listen to them. They put product managers so they will define the features based on conversation with customers. Always evangelize. You never know who is sitting next to you in a train, in a plane, in a bus. It may be your next customer. It may be your next hire. Always evangelize your story. Not religion, the story of your company. What is the CEO's job? Very simple. Set the vision, recruit the best people, better than him or her, set the company's culture, and communicate non-stop. Customers, employees, vendors, shareholders. This is the job of a good CEO. Always network. Go to as many events as possible, and conferences and whatever. A lot of things that turn to be extremely positive for me came because I love to network. I always give, but eventually there's karma. You also get back. Be passionate, but stay focused. Use your investors, bankers, advisors. Don't do it yourself as founders and entrepreneurs. Always surround yourself with quality people that can help you. The power of two is greater than one, and of course it goes on. And the last comment is, I didn't want to write hire fast, fire faster. Get rid of people in your company that are always talking about their efforts. Oh, I worked hard. I didn't see my baby. I didn't see my girlfriend. I worked 22 hours a day. If this is nice for stories, you want to hear progress. Be result-oriented. And now I'm doing a trick to you. So besides being a mentor at Google, I have 4 children and I'm a dog-loving person. So I've got a captured audience here. I don't know how many. Anyone who has a dog and you do this with your product. So we launched, my daughter and I, a couple of years ago, an app that has close to 100,000 users right now. So I'm just letting you know, try Doggo. If you've got a dog or cat, you'll enjoy it. This is called, you've got captured audience. And the last slide is a question to everybody. What do you see in the picture? Anyone wants to answer? Don't be shy. Okay, I'll help you. So usually people tell me I see an elephant, mother and son, I see water, etc. Remember when we talked about building a team? So, I'll make it short. Elephants have tiny mouth, huge ears. Hippos are exactly the opposite. You've got to search for their ears, and God will help you if you fall into their knot. You gain knowledge by listening. Listen to your customers, listen to your vendors, your employees, listen to your wife, your children, whoever. This is how you gain knowledge. Stay away from leaders and hippos. These are the CEOs and founders that take control over conversations. They don't let their team shine next to them. This is where you don't want to be. And thank you. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Right, guys. Now I'm part of the directors and seeing we need to do a lot of financial inclusion in our region in Latin America. So I love this panel. I love what we have here, and I love that you're here because one of you guys are getting great things in just in Latin America. Chris,
you're doing great things in UK, Brazil, and a lot of times of regulations. Javier here in Guatemala, Central America, and Robert, wow, also leading Latin America. So I want first that you introduce you guys very quick. One word that you describe what you're doing. One word what you describe you as leaders. Say your name and tell me one word what describes you as leaders doing this in Latin America.
Thank you, Gemma. That's not the first time you've asked me for one word. I know that's your style. Robert Carlyle, leading open banking at Visa. So I'd say my one word is open.
I think what describes me is that I'm always looking for the next opportunity to give clients new solutions and better lifestyle.
Gracias.
Thank you. Chris Michael, one word, painful. I like to be very much into the detail of things and to make sure stuff is really working. So I go to the nth degree to make sure stuff is working, but painful.
Jose Luis?
Jose Lopez, the CEO of Finerio. I will use three. Get things done, number one. Get things done, and I will add no matter what.
Nice, nice. Okay, guys, so I will do just a little bit of synopsis. We're talking over here. Open banking is changing the money movement process worldwide for good. Hear from different leaders right now that are here to learn how it's being applied in Latin America and what we can do to seize this trend to transform financial products in the region. So my first question is for Robert. Robert, there is a lot of buzz about the concept of open banking, and it has been identified as most for financial inclusion. But let's start from the beginning, Robert. Will you please explain us what is open banking?
Yeah, thank you. In Visa, we tend to start by thinking about open banking as a means to create superior products and services for end users. And that happens in open banking through the sharing of consented or permissioned information and data between entities. I would point out that it does happen in a regulatory context, particularly in Europe, but open banking is a lot more than that. And banks can take advantage of the same technology and APIs to grow their business by extending through new distribution models or through in a more agile way, integrate products and services from third parties. Setting. So open finance for us is the extension of that concept to other financial sectors. So it could be insurance or investments. And that's really relevant to where Latin America is going, especially certain regulators. While open data is the further extension of that to other sectors, which could be healthcare and energy. And I think that's a little bit further in the future.
Yes. Someone wants to add something there? Or we go to the next question. Why do we need open banking and how can we different actors in the financial ecosystem benefit from it? Javier?
Well, I think we need open banking first of all because our clients are very broad of banking as embedded finance, for example. And the way we do finance in the past years was that we create all of the infrastructure just we think that the client needs, but the the new way and the new way to grow is the way that we can collaborate with fintechs, with other partners, and how the banks can collaborate and stay relevant here. We need to open our infrastructure, so fintechs and everyone can create better services for our clients. So leveraging all the infrastructure that we already have, as you just saw in the morning, we joined with Free and we opened our ATM network, so another fintech can use it and withdraw money. And at the beginning, when we set up the ATM network, it was like a competitive advantage to us because we only wanted to use us. But now, if we want to collaborate and grow and a new ecosystem, we need to be open so everyone can invent new things.
A great applause, please.
A cloud platform maybe, or another platform that might have a core banking system, might offer and enable different services. But really, what open banking is about is enabling banks and fintechs to collaborate to offer those new services. And the more extensive and the more functionality that exists in that API layer that sits between the banks and the fintechs, the stronger the collaboration can be, and the better the products and services that can be offered to the end customers. But really it's about not just enabling those innovations, those new products and services, it's also about speed. It's about enabling banks to move more quickly. If banks have got great APIs, they can partner with those fintechs, they can launch those services much more quickly to the market, and that's really important in particularly in regions like Latin America.
Jose Luis?
Yes, we started as a B2C company. We created at the beginning a personal finance app. Our purpose was actually not being an open banking company. Our purpose was to help change people's lives, because people in Latin America, they don't save, they don't plan for the future, and on a personal finance app, you can gather all your information from different banks and can automatize all your finances. But at that time, there were no open banking companies, so we have to create the connections to banks to gather all the information in one place. And when we launched the app, we realized that we could have a big impact with people. We interviewed our customers, and we realized that the people that were actually using our app save up to 20% of their expenses using our app. And then at that time we talked with the regulator in Mexico. They created the first open banking law in Latin America, one of the first open banking laws in the world. And we realized that providing all the technology that we created to use open banking in different purposes could have a bigger impact. We could reach millions of customers rather than thousands of customers. But at the same time, we realized that how open banking was done in other regions like Europe, like the United States. You could use open banking, but it has limitations, like some use case limitations. And we wanted to have the biggest impact, not just being a multi-million-dollar company, but having the biggest impact within people. And to do that, we have to create better technology. We have to change the business model. And that's how we partner with Ozone and Visa now. We partner with Banco Industrial because we wanted to have a better way of doing open banking, creating a better system, better technology, etc. And now the purpose of open banking can change people's finances, access to credit, financial inclusion. Actually, there's a study that it can actually impact the economic development in one country, like creating a lot of investment. But to do so, we have to create open banking in a better way. And to do so, I mean, we now Latin America is in the best place possible because many countries are creating open banking laws. We learn from what not to do in other countries, other regions, and with that experience we can do better. We can have the best open banking ecosystem in the world.
Yes. Gracias, Luis. So we have different perspectives, as you said, as you are being talking right now. And about the topic of the panel, I would like to start with Chris' perspective. Please tell us about Ozone experience with open banking, UK, Brazil. And what will you recommend for the rest of Latin America? I know also you're doing things in Saudi Arabia.
Sure. So we started back in 2016, 2017 in the UK, creating the open banking standard for the UK, working with the what's called the Open Bank Implementation Entity. And this was the first time that any country had developed a common standard for open banking. Open banking as a concept has been around for at least 15 years, based on two things, predominantly credential sharing and screen scraping. Customers would give a fintech, a third party, their username, password, the third party would impersonate the customer and screen scrape the customer's bank account. And that is still quite a predominant practice in many parts of the world, but it has a number of issues around security, privacy, and it's also hard to do, expensive to do, and has a large cost and reliability concerns. So APIs are a much better way of doing this. We UK Open Banking Standard back in 2016, 2017 actually. But what we saw when we created the standards, we saw how difficult it was for banks to implement this. I touched on this earlier, that most banks aren't technology companies. And so we realised that we needed to go a step further and actually build the technology to help banks to meet both regulatory requirements for opening their APIs, but also to meet commercial objectives to create this as a commercial channel to partner with those fintechs. So we created Ozone in the back end of 2017 as a company to help those banks implement open banking we call it open banking in a box, effectively. But since then, we've been working with regulators and central banks all over the world, and we've been rolling out our software as a service in many different parts of the world, across Europe, in the Middle East, in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and in Brazil, and now the rest of Latin America. And I think the key learning here is that what we're seeing is that banks are moving from back in 2017 when they started in the UK, they were forced to do open banking. It was a punishment, it was a compliance exercise that they were forced to do it, and they didn't see the value. They saw it was going to cost them money, it was going to be potentially creating risk because they were opening up their systems, their data to third parties who would compete with them. But what we've seen since is that open banking, if it's done well, that is the key point, it needs to be done well. Banks need to do APIs that are really high performing, that are really rich in functionality, and are done in accordance with the standard. When it's done well, we're seeing banks really starting to get the benefits. They can partner with those fintechs, they can offer better loans, better lending to customers. They can be not only providers of APIs, they can consume those APIs as well to offer aggregation services across other banks. And we're seeing now across the UK, open banking has really started to take off, close to 10 million users, personal and business customers. And that's been sort of, I suppose, proposed as a sort of role model or example for the rest of the world. But it's not perfect. There's a lot of things that aren't working so well in open banking in the UK. Not least the regulation, because it was a punishment, the banks didn't have the right incentives. What we're seeing now in other parts of the world, we're working with regulators as I mentioned in Saudi Arabia particularly, is starting this the other way around, rather than starting with the regulation, starting with use cases and looking at what use cases actually work for customers and making sure that both banks and fintechs have got the same incentives to deliver those services, and then then from that, creating both the standards and the regulations to support those use cases. And this is now changing the game, because we're seeing everyone, not just the fintechs, but the banks really getting much more excited globally about the concept of open banking and open finance, and they can see the value for their customers. But I think it's flipping the narrative around is the key thing here, to start with those use cases and look at the values of the customers.
No, and I love that you're saying that, because I love when I met Hugh, Luis in Mexico, and Robert, and told me about sandboxes. How you can really have a sandbox and see the whole ecosystem, how it will work with this amazing APIs, but how everyone in the bank, the customers, even Visa or MasterCard, whatever, everyone will be there connected. And how that will be better for us in financial inclusion, and that will begin, we will leapfrog our society if we do that. Because even though we have, imagine people, we have 600 million people in all Latin America. 50% less doesn't have bank accounts. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And the other thing is great that there are just at least 400 banks in all Latin America. And imagine that the United States has 300 million people and they have more than 5,000 banks. So there's a huge opportunity there. So you have to take notes there. I would like to, Jose Luis, you've been working in Brazil with Nubank, you've been working in Mexico, Colombia, with a lot of clients. 3 regional ecosystems that are changing the way we do finance in LATAM. Could you share with us some of the use cases you have been working on in these countries?
Yes, of course. I mean, as we mentioned, we started with personal finances, right? And some of our biggest clients, they started doing personal finance apps. Like Fintonic, that is the biggest open banking user in Hispanic America. Colombia is launching the first personal finance app that can connect to other banks in Colombia. Grupo Sura is using a personal finance app to save money to people and make those people invest in their financial services. But then, I mean, some of our big clients, they use open banking for loans. It's extremely useful. Like some people in Latin America, they don't have access to the credit bureau because they are low income or they recently graduated from schools. And because of that, I mean, it's hard for them to have their first credit card, their first loan. For instance, for Nubank, we are working to get those clients that they don't have credit history, and you can use transactional information. Many of them, they have debit cards. We can use the transactional information to calculate the risk, to create a credit score, to assess their income. I mean, it's extremely useful for those kind of customers. Also, there is a big bulk of customers that are using our infrastructure for accounting. I mean, when you have transactional data and you have tax data, you can conciliate the information and you can automatize all your processes. In Mexico, I mean, big companies, they have like hundreds of accountants doing that job. With open banking, I mean, you can make that more efficient, you can automatize processes, and that's one of the biggest use cases in the UK, where like all the companies have to pay taxes to open banking, automatizing all the process, right? Also, I mean, there are other use cases that we are launching, not yet, but we're talking with some companies, like for instance, loyalty programs. Now with loyalty programs, so you have to have the card of the bank to start accumulating points, or you have to have the card of the business to use the loyalty program. With open banking, you can consolidate all your expenses in one place, and for instance, you go 5 times to Starbucks, regardless with which card you pay. I mean, you can accumulate the amount, accumulate visits, and you can automatically redeem points. So it's extremely useful for that. Also, we're working with marketing purposes. I mean, open banking, for instance, Target, they gather all the information from their users in the US, and Target, they started giving promotions to a teenager, like a baby, like clothing promotion diapers to a teenager. The father of this teenager complained because parents should do that to a teenager, and after some months they realized that actually the teenager was pregnant. I mean, with that, Target predicted before that the teenager was pregnant. So that's the power of that. I mean, now, for instance, Google, I mean, you have to make a search for a product, and they start like giving promotions on that search. But with data, you can even predict a purchase even before the person wants that purchase. So that's the future. Open banking is the future for marketing. And I will let Chris also, because he has like great examples of use cases.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you combine data and payments, it gets really exciting what you can do with open banking. You can help people manage their expenses, help them save money, help them invest money, and you can automate that process. And I think that's where it gets really exciting. E-commerce, when you can blend a payment experience with an automated loyalty experience without having to ask the customer to do anything else. This is the real power. And this is when I spoke earlier about starting with use cases. If we think about these use cases, they offer value to the customers. They offer value to fintechs, because fintechs can provide those experiences. They offer value to the banks, and they offer value to merchants and other parties involved in that. So it's a win-win situation for everyone, and it's no longer difficult to do. There are standards that are emerging all over the world that are starting to enable these use cases. Regulators are starting to realise the benefits, and the technology is there. And Jamal mentioned, sandboxes. We can provide technology that enables everyone to build applications, to get things up and running with test data, and then flip a switch and plug this into real bank accounts, and it can be done very, very quickly and really deliver the value quickly.
Gracias Chris, gracias José Luis. So Javier, Banco Industrial has been a leader in innovation in the banking sector in Guatemala and Central America. Tell us your perspective and what's next.
Well, we started talking about open banking at like a year and a half, and it's not just create APIs just to have a lot of APIs and get connected. You need to have a strategy and you need to have a roadmap with the right use cases to add value to the market and to the bank. But I think there is a term that I like to use that is invisible banking, because in the near future, everyone that will use our APIs and services will be embedded in other non-financial transactions. So it doesn't matter if they don't use my app or my e-banking, but they will be still using my infrastructure. We're working right now. Soon we will have our marketplace and our sandbox, so everyone can test and join us to create new things. And this will open and give the step for open innovation, because we know that we cannot create everything. We understand that, and this will open so entrepreneurs, fintechs, and probably government, etc. So we can create things together. So that's why we entered here, because we have a strategy, and also we need to monetize our infrastructure, because it's very big and many people can do right now payments, create new products and digitize our products, and offer these products through other banks. So that's where we look.
So hear that, guys. Banco Industrial is open to do that. So every fintech that is here today, all the fintechs that came from Latin America. So Javier is the guy. You have to go with him. So I would like to wrap up, and I would like to close asking Robert to share. I know that you have. I was in Volcano Summit in Mexico a few months ago, and you got an alliance strategic alliance. For all Latin America with Finero and Ozone. Can you tell us about that, Roberto?
Yeah, Very, very happy to. So this is a case of Visa putting together two very trusted partners to drive open banking in Latin America. Firstly, Ozone API, the original architects of open banking, who have now developed a leading bank enablement platform. We're putting it together with a really trusted partner in Fidelio Connect, who could bring that platform to life in Latin America with their connectivity footprint and local know-how. And of course, Visa complements those two companies very well. We have beautifully organized, readily available data to bring to open banking, analytics assets that build on that data, identity and security capabilities, as well as our payments play. And with the three companies together, we bring capabilities across the supply side through to the demand side of open banking. And with that, we can enable progressive institutions, financial institutions, to really embrace open banking. But we can also take it to the next level and potentially enable whole markets or whole countries. We're really keen to talk about that in the context of Guatemala.
Wow, what you're doing for Guatemala, tell me about it. Are you looking for that? Going through open banking and helping the region for that?
Well, I think Guatemala's in a really great place. It hasn't rushed to a European model, kind of overburdened by regulation and all that process. It has progressive financial institutions, so I think all the ingredients are there to maybe take a fresh look and do things better than they've tried to do in Europe and other parts of Latin America. I think maybe our partners can comment on that as well.
Want to comment something, Jose Luis or Chris?
Yes, I mean, we would like to talk about how we're trying to reinvent open banking. Steve Jobs, in his book, he said that everything that has been done, I mean, sometimes we believe that that's the best way of doing things. But if we analyze things, I mean, we can do better. That's the case with open banking. When you, talk with regulators in Latin America, with banks in Latin America, they believe that the best way of doing banking is the way that Europe implements open banking with PSD2. But actually, when you talk with fintech, when you talk with banks in Europe, you realize that it has a lot of areas of opportunity. So basically, we are redesigning how open banking is done, and instead of looking at compliance, just creating an open banking law, help regulators to create that open banking law and make a lot of money doing applicals. We are thinking about use cases. I mean, instead of just sharing data, sharing payments, I mean, how can open banking create new use cases for loans, for personal finances, for investment, etc. And that creates a different way of creating the technology, a different way of implementing technology. And also, I mean, we have to create a business model that also benefits all parties, because open banking, the way it was created in Europe, I mean, banks cannot charge for applicants, and sometimes banks don't have the right incentives to keep investing in open banking. So we want also to change that, to see that banks can have benefit from day one by sharing data, sharing financial goals, sharing payments, and also they should, instead of focusing on something that Ozone has already created, that is the regulatory technology. I mean, focus on use cases, how they can bring value to customers. And if they don't see that they don't see open banking as a burden for something that can enable tons of things, can bring new customers, that can bring the financial services in the right moment. For instance, open banking has the potential of creating any company can be a fintech with open banking. A school can offer loans without being like a financial institution. I mean, the potential is huge, and we want banks to be and fintechs to be excited about that.
Super, we're getting out of time, guys. I just want to say that so you're committed to do a world-class open banking in Guatemala and Central America. So thank you for that. Gracias. Thank you.